Hello everybody, John here from the esports department going over the 4-game LPL LCK slate for 610. Last night, unfortunate, Fred and Brion coming out and pulling one of their early season upsets just like they did last season. Not looking good for my Live Sandbox lineups going in there. Other than that, pretty much what we predicted, SKT coming out and getting the crushing victory. Didn't get their lineups this time as expected, which is unfortunate. It seems like the LCK SKT lineup pipeline is dry for the moment. But moving on to today's slate, JDG minus 1200 going up against TT plus 650. So JDG running back the same lineup as Spring, which they should because that team is sweet. Still, if there's one team I would really love to see like make a real Worlds run and win Worlds or come close to winning Worlds, I really love that JDG team, and I just think there's so much talent there when they've got it going and when the metagame fits what they're doing. I think they're the best team in the world. So minus 1200 seems fair against TT, who's really putting up a... They just have such a cluster of a roster. We know who they're playing already tonight, but they just have, let's see, they have 2 top laners, 3 mid laners, 2 supports. They just have a whole gang of people over there. This is a roster I didn't like. This lineup is a lineup I didn't see coming, though. They're playing Captain, they're playing Patch at support. They are playing LongG, which we kind of expected, although I'm not really sure that I love LongG being on the team to begin with. But either way, JDG should be an absolutely monstrous favorite, as they are. That said, I can't emphasize enough that in these early season GPPs, I would highly recommend getting on big underdogs like this. TT, reasonable shot here. I mean, they're not going to win very often that we know of. Historical data would suggest that they're not going to win very often. But every single split, we have a couple teams that come in and start off hot that are big underdogs. We don't know who those teams really are yet. Ultra Prime got a game last night, which I didn't see coming at all. So be willing to take some risks early in the season in these big GPPs on teams like TT. I don't know that I think TT is one of your best spots. I think JDG is pretty elite. But be willing to take a risk on some of these big underdogs from time to time. That's how you're going to get big wins early in the season. It's how I've always gotten big wins early in the season. We haven't seen these teams in a while, man. I mean, some of these TT players might be a lot better than last time we saw them. Some of the veteran teams might get a little complacent in the offseason, whereas a lot of these younger guys are a bit hungrier in the offseason. So be willing to take a shot on some of these big underdogs for sure, especially in the big field GPPs. The next matchup of the day, Rare Atom minus 600. They do have a win on the season. We're still using last season's stats here for the moment, spring season stats. I will try to get these moved over to summer season stats as soon as we have a couple games from each team and we can get an actual real sample for them. Sorry, guys. Bit of a cough in my throat this morning. They're playing against LGD. LGD feels like a pretty good underdog team to take a shot on if you're looking for a team to take a shot on. Rare Atom has looked very good. I like their roster. I think they're a very good team. LGD has 3 veteran guys on the team. Well, 4 veteran guys. I mean, Mark is a veteran at this point. They have 4 veteran guys on the team in Shadow, ZA, Kramer, and Mark that could definitely put together a little something at the beginning of the season here. I could definitely see this team putting something together and having an all-right run. It just seems like they have a lot of veterancy. I don't know what else to say. They should come in and hit the ground running, which is something you expect from teams that have veterans. I didn't expect Garvey to be the top laner going into this first match, but Garvey did his best last season. They made him play 80 carry a couple times. I mean, the guy did what he could. But LGD, they have some guys on the team that could hit the ground running, and even though Rare Atom is also that kind of team, I mean, they've got a couple veterans there. They're their team that's held over from spring. I think LGD makes for a decent underdog shot take. This seems like the perfect example of the kind of team that could come in and win a few games early and have people get hyped only to completely fall apart in like week 4 and then just be terrible for the rest of the split. LGD feels like a team that could do that. So I could see them getting some wins here. I don't mind taking a shot on LGD today, especially in the big fields. I like LGD more than I like TT by a fair bit. Moving over to the LCK, Nongshim Red Force minus 155 going up against KT Rolster plus 120. Not a lot of changes roster-wise with these two teams. The 80 carry for KT Rolster, permanently Noah now. We don't know who's going to be playing support for them between Harp and Zeus. We don't know who's going to be playing jungle between Blank and Gideon. We don't know who's going to be playing mid between UCal and Dove. But we will figure that out before the match. And something I wanted to point out is, if you look at their stats from spring, 1729, 1746, minus 94, minus 84, 4340 to 4931, 50 to 35, 47 to 44, minus 941 to minus 829. Nongshim Red Force wasn't even really better than KT in spring, and I think KT has nailed down their roster a little bit more coming into summer, figured out who they wanted to use. I like KT here. It's definitely my favorite. If you're looking for an underdog that could actually win, I mean, I know odds-wise they are the underdog that could most likely win, but that's for a reason. I think KT's your underdog that has the best shot of winning tonight. They were really, if these two teams were playing each other in spring, I probably would have taken KT anyway, and they're an underdog here, with KT getting a chance to nail down the roster a little bit more. KT feels like a good spot for small field GPPs. I could definitely see them winning, and something like a 4 KT might not be owned at all. This matchup has some potential for some bloodiness. We'll see in a minute what the projections look like, but I could see KT being a reasonable play here. I know Nongshim last split, they gave up a lot when they lost, but didn't score very many points when they won. Still worth playing against them when you think you can. So KT, not a bad spot tonight, I don't think. The last matchup, GenG against DRX. Two teams that didn't change their rosters really for summer. GenG minus 450, DRX plus 300. The one thing we get lucky about is with this being the late matchup, you actually don't really need to do much guesswork with these two teams. DRX, same team that they had in spring, and they rarely ever did any subbing. With GenG, you have to worry a little bit. They have a couple subs, but I think it's pretty likely they'll run back the same roster that's been successful for them for years now. Rascal, Clid, BDD, Ruler, and Life. Seems likely to be those guys. So GenG, a pretty big favorite there. It feels to me, just on pure feel, like this is not one of the matchups that's on the bloodier side, though. One of the bigger edges is once we get the KPWs and DPLs rolling, where you can start differentiating the biggest favorites from the teams that are going to score well. I think really the edge in LoL DFS is letting other people play the biggest favorite when you have a spot to play a smaller favorite who's higher kill and creates bloodier games. And we just don't really know quite yet how these teams are going to react to the metagame that we're in. So we'll have to see exactly, but this matchup doesn't feel super bloody to me. Luckily, that's what we have the projections for. I think for ownership, I think JDG should almost certainly be the highest owned team. They're a bloody team who's the biggest favorite on the slate. I definitely can't see them not being pretty highly owned. Rare Atom up against LGD. LGD traditionally a great opponent, and I think people will want to go to Rare Atom and get those LGD opponent points. GenG being a bigger favorite. Nongshim might be lower owned than this. I tend to think the 4 favorites are going to be the highest owned teams. But Nongshim, people might fade away from them, given that I don't even really think they should be much of a favorite over KT. I would think that KT would actually be up here somewhere, except that people are just naturally not going to want to mess with their lineup if they can help it. We're going to get their lineup before lock, but people don't want to stay up and wait, at 1 o'clock in the morning, seeing what the lineups are going to look like. So I think people will just be slightly lower on KT just for that reason. And I think some people, LGD has a little hype behind them with ZA and Shadow. Some people are probably going to want to cash in on that and probably go over to LGD. I think DRX comes up next, and then TT is probably the team that people are really not going to be on, which makes sense to me. I mean, TT's just a monstrous dog tonight. I probably will have some TT running around. I'm sure I'll pick a spot or two in the big GPPs and get some TT lineups in there just in case. But looking at the favorites so we can decide cash, I might remove both KT and Nongshim. I don't really think you want to play either of those teams in cash. I'll leave them both in to look at the scoring, but I'm going to take them out when we're talking about cash lineups. KT with the highest projection, followed by Rascal, Zoom, and then Nongshim and Rare Atom at the bottom. JDG at the top, followed by KT. So JDG and KT both looking like high-scoring teams if they win. Clid, Peanut, and Rare Atom again in last. So Rare Atom not looking so hot so far. Going to the mid lane, well, they're first in the mid lane. Then JDG and KT again, with GenG and Nongshim afterwards. AD carry, JDG, Rare Atom, KT, Nongshim, and GenG at the bottom. And at support, JDG, KT. So what we're learning is JDG is the highest expectation. KT is right up there with them if they beat Nongshim. And then Rare Atom, Nongshim, and GenG, some combinations a little bit lower. Generally, GenG looking like the very bottom. Teams that we could play in cash, I think it's pretty much JDG, Rare Atom, and GenG. So we could do JDG, GenG, JDG, Rare Atom, and Rare Atom, GenG. Let's see what we come up with for JDG and GenG. Let's make sure this is down at lower just in case. We get a 3-3 Clid Captain. Just looking at the difference between jungles and tops at the moment. I do think tops should still get a small boost from where they were before. I'd like to get 4 JDG players, but it looks like that's not really a thing that can happen unless you're willing to, let's see, well, if you went from Lumao to Life, then switched over from Rascal to Zoom, BDG to Gigao, so you could do it this way to get 4 JDG. If you play Clid and Life as your only 2 GenG players, then you can play 4 JDG. That gives you a 592.3. And what was the original? 598.4. So you have a couple options there. I hate playing the 3-3, but it is the highest projection lineup today because it's going to give you BDD and Rascal, which are much better scoring GenG players versus Life. That makes sense that it wants to go with the 3-3. So looking at JDG and Rare Atom, it's a Lumao captain, so you're getting a support captain. It is a 4-2, but it's only 580.6, not looking super hot there. What about Rare Atom and GenG? What if we just skipped JDG overall? That feels like it's unlikely to be the best strategy. But you get Ruler captain out of it, which is pretty impressive. And who's the more expensive of these two? Rare Atom is... Except, well, yeah, no, even at top lane. What if we switched? No, because Ruler's cheaper. Leon's 400 more, so this is really how you have to do this lineup, probably. Switching Hong to Life probably does the same thing as before, maybe. Yeah, then you'd have 200 left, and you could get Cube. So you could play 4 Rare Atom with Ruler Captain. It's 577.2. But the other one it prefers by a lot to 597.9. So you have a very close match between this version, the 80 carry Captain, 3-3 of GenG and Rare Atom, and then GenG and JDG gets you the 598.4, which is the highest projected lineup. That is a Clid captain with Rascal, BDD, Kanavi, Loken, Lumao, and GenG team. Yeah, I don't have any reason to believe that this isn't the way to go. You could switch over to that 4 JDG lineup that I had listed there. I think that's, even though it projects a little bit worse, I do think it is just as good of a cash lineup, but one of those two feels like the right way to go. You can play this one as well. I think probably I end up playing this just because, can I switch Kanavi too? Is that, no, they're 800 difference. I don't think you can get that. I always check just to be sure, but yeah, I think you could play the Clid Captain version. So those I think are your 2 options for cash here. You can either play the 2-4 with Clid as your captain, or the 3-3 that's the Stone optimized Labs version. And yeah, that seems reasonable. GenG and JDG, Two of the biggest favorites on the slate, extremely likely to win. Seems like a pretty good spot for them. As far as the big GPPs, as mentioned before, if you're looking for some decent dogs, I think DRX, GPP playable, LGD. Sorry, guys. Wouldn't be a day without it. KT Rolster, probably my favorite if you're going like small field GPP, and then if you're in the huge field GPP, don't be afraid to take a little bit of a shot on TT. I think they're reasonable as well. So there we go, guys. That's the slate for 610. Good luck to you guys. Hit me up in the Discord and on Twitter as usual if you have any questions, and I will talk to you guys later.